What's up, guys? It is StarFlorge here, and today I am bringing you a brand new Mage build, and this is a Knight Enchanter build. Obviously, I haven't done this for a while because many of you know I'm not a big fan of them, but today I've actually found a build that I quite enjoy. Next week, obviously, is going to be the Dragon Age 4 speculations because my last video had some great success, and thank you to everyone who liked that and commented. But today, it is the Knight Enchanter build, so let's get straight into it. Now, obviously, we are going into the Knight Enchanter route, and just to start off, this is around a level 27 human and 28 any other race to be able to get every spell. As always, try and get every single active first and then take passives, so the level cap can be taken down, but for any of you out there, if you haven't had any bonus ability points, it is level 27 if you're a human, or level 28. Now we're going to start off with Spirit Blade, which it does 150% weapon damage, costs 10 mana only, does 100% bonus damage to guard and barrier, and it has no cooldown whatsoever. Then we are taking the upgrade Defending Blade, which means any projectiles coming, we will deflect them back and hit them back to the attacker, which is extremely useful against all of those archers or mages. Then we are going down to the left side, starting off with Combat Clarity, which means if you are within 5 meters of any enemy, you will regenerate mana quicker by 50%. Which comes in useful in pretty much every situation, as mages really rely on generating mana. Now we're going down to Fade Shield, which means 30% of the damage we deal turns into a barrier, making us unkillable most of the time. Now we're going to the right side, starting off with Fade Cloak, which has a duration of 2 seconds, cooldown time of 10.8 seconds, and a cost of 18.5 mana. But anyway, we are going to Decloaking Blast, which means when you come out of stealth, that means whether you have attacked or duration has just ended, you will deal 1000% weapon damage as spirit damage to the enemies right next to you. So it can hit multiple enemies, but it is a very tiny radius. Then we're going down to the Veiled Riposte, which means 20% of the damage you take is returned to the attacker. Then we're going down to Night Protector, which means our barrier decay reduction is reduced by 35%. So what this means is normally your barrier just decays at a certain rate, and this rate will be reduced by 35%. Then we're going down to Disruption Field, which is one of the key spells of this build, which means any enemies trapped inside its radius of 3 meters, all the speed is reduced by 50%, duration of 10 seconds, cooldown time of 21.6 seconds, and a cost of 60.125 mana. But we are going down to Status Lock, which means the speed is actually reduced to 99%, however it is over 5 seconds instead. However, I find this extremely useful because it allows you to utilize this build and get off a lot of combos which you wouldn't normally be able to do. Then we're going down into the winter, where we are trying to take a very straight path down. We are taking Fade Step, which lasts 2 seconds and has a cooldown time of 10.8 seconds, and it basically lets you travel a short distance while being invisible. We are taking the Energizing Step upgrade, which means you will regenerate 25% mana for each enemy you pass through, so you can technically get bang up to 100%, and with this build, this is what we are aiming to do, being able to use Fade Step to initiate our combinations. Next, we're going down into Winter Stillness to be able to get down to Blizzard. Then we are taking Ice Mine, which is just to get down. We're taking Ice Armor, which means if we are near a persistent cold spell, that means something like Blizzard, we will take 50% reduced damage. And in this build, odds are you will be standing right in it or right next to it, meaning this will last the entire 10 seconds that Blizzard is on. Now Blizzard, it says it can be toggled on and off, but this will not apply. The ice damage is 75% weapon damage per second. It chills enemies in it for 8 seconds in an area of 8 meters, so it's a very large area. Has a cooldown time of 21.6 seconds and a cost of 625 mana per second, which is removed, as you'll see in a second, as we take the Winter Winds, which means you don't have to sustain it. It just costs an initial 40 mana and it lasts 10 seconds, which I find is a lot more useful in a lot of situations now. Then we are going to Inferno, where we take Immolate just to get down. Flashpoint, because it is a necessity, and everyone should know that it means if you land a crit, your next spell doesn't trigger a cooldown period. Then we're going down into Clean Burn, which means as you cast spells, your other spells' cooldowns are reduced by 1 second, which is very useful, being able to get all of your combos off. Then we are going down into Wall of Fire, which is a size of 6 meters, duration of 20 seconds, burning the enemies for 200% weapon damage per second, and that lasts for 12 seconds, and it fears them for 6 seconds, has a cooldown time of 28.8 seconds, and a mana cost of 32.375. And we are taking the Lasting Flames, which means the damage duration bonus actually lasts 4 seconds, and the size is increased by 3 meters up to 9. That is the Inferno quickly done, and we are moving quickly into the Storm Tree, where we are taking Energy Barrage, which fires 12 projectiles. Each projectile deals 78% weapon damage, has a cooldown time of 14.4 seconds, and a mana cost of 46.25 mana. We are taking the upgrade Energy Bombardment. Then we're going down to Conductive Current, which means for every 10% missing mana, you gain 5% bonus damage. And as we are using so much spells, trying to get as much uptime on spells, we will usually be losing mana, which means hopefully we're getting more damage out. Then we're taking Static Charge, and this is all down to be able to get down to Static Cage. This means when enemies that attempt to interrupt you while casting with your attacks, they are struck by electric damage, which is 100% weapon damage, and they are shot for 6 seconds. This is extremely useful if there are any melee or even ranged enemies when you are kind of casting all your spells, and it can shock them, which is extremely nice. Then we're going down to Static Cage, a very, very key spell in this build, which lasts 8 seconds, has an area effect of 9 meters. The people in it, if they try to leave it, are paralyzed for 2 seconds, has a cooldown time of 28.8 seconds, and a cost of 60.125 mana. Now we are taking the Lightning Cage upgrade, which means anytime they take damage, they will be dealt 50% weapon damage, which is why we use this, and I find this such a useful spell. Now, first of all, before showing you my items, I want to quickly go through what you would do in a fight scenario. Now, the best thing to do is not place Static Cage down, because if we go to Enchanter, you can see that the Disruption Field only lasts 5 seconds, Blizzard lasts 10 seconds, Wall of Fire, where is it there, lasts 20 seconds, and Static Cage lasts 8 seconds. So the best thing to do is, sometimes I find putting this Disruption Field down first, even though it lasts 5 seconds, I find it is better to place it down first so that all the enemies are definitely in the center as you start to combo. Then you want to put down your Wall of Fire. After you've put down the Wall of Fire, make sure you've got about 100% mana, then use the Blizzard, and then you should use Static Cage, and this will maximize the Static Cage damage, because a lot of the time in many other builds I've used Energy Bombardment, which means you need to use Static Cage first to be able to get your spells off. But because this is basically me basing this off AoE damage, you want to put your longer duration spells down quicker, but the Disruption Field down to be able to make sure all of the enemies stay there. So as the combo goes, you use Disruption Field, Wall of Fire, go up to 100%, and this is usually done by me fade stepping through all the enemies in the Disruption Field, then using Blizzard, and then using Static Cage. So let's go and look over at the armor. So for the accessories, I am starting off with my neck being Andraste's Sacrifice. Now this gives you 10% cooldown modifier, a chance on hit to taunt all enemies, but the wearer of this amulet regenerates mana or stamina at a higher rate. Now I'm using this to be able to get as much mana regen as you can and use the Ring of Doubt, which means we deal plus 20% flanking damage. When you enter stealth when not attacking during combat, so it is extremely useful, especially with Andraste's Sacrifice, because if you do happen to taunt all enemies, you can just stop attacking and then you will go invisible. Now also it means that when you attack from stealth you automatically critically hit. The next key thing is my armor, and it is the Battle Mage Masterwork that I have got. Now I have crafted this, and what you really need is the abilities cost 7.5% less mana / stamina, and that is what is taking all of my mana cost down and is the useful part of my armor. Let's get straight into some combat. So before I actually show you the clip, I will just show you this clip from a very short video I will be uploading soon. But the reason I am doing this is because when I actually get into combat, it is extremely hectic. There is a lot of going on, and I am just showing you the highlights of what this build can do, because after this big massacre that I'm going to show you, there was a tank left that basically just had permanent armor, and he was an elite, and with Nightmare and Trials on, they basically do not die. I obviously killed them in the end, but it took a while and was rather boring. But I wanted to show you what this build can do, and to show that off, in this little clip, I will be using the disruption field into the wall of fire, into the blizzard, into the static cage. Now once that is all down, I will basically just spam Spirit Blade, use Fade Cloak when I can, and maybe trying to keep an uptime on Wall of Fire. Then it will reset, that's all over. Then because I've already got a Wall of Fire reset, I can then Blizzard, Static Cage and do the same combo again. So I hope you guys enjoy this little combat clip, and I'll see you after that. So as you could see there, that was an absolute AoE massacre of those mobs. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and this build. Leave a like, comment below, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.